that if you meet a perfect living master, you'll experience his love. He does not come to judge. Are we good or bad? Do we deserve something or not? That's not the role of a perfect living master. He comes because we are seekers, because we have sought the ultimate, and he's responding to our seeking.
Please watch on to find out more about the nature of the perfect living masters, as told by the Venerable Ishwar Puriji, a devoted direct disciple of the great master Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh Ji.
Today, we continue with the second part of a most interesting interview with Ishwar Puriji about the true spiritual path. Ishwar Puriji is a devoted disciple and respected servant of the great master Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh Ji of India. Ishwar Puriji practices Surat Shabd Yoga in the Sant Math tradition, a spiritual method of meditation on the inner heavenly light and sound. Ishwar Puriji was initiated into this path by Baba Sawan Singh Ji at a very early age and had always been in his close presence. Today, at the request of the great master, Ishwar Puriji is committed to helping sincere truth seekers, especially in the West, to discover their true great selves by being initiated in the Surat Shabd Yoga. Ishwar Puriji attended Harvard University in the United States before retiring from a distinguished career as an official in the Indian government. He founded the Institute for the Study of Human Awareness, ISHA, in the US, through which he has been conducting lectures and workshops, etc., on the amazing potential and divine nature of the human consciousness. Meanwhile, Ishwar Puriji continues to serve as an esteemed advisor to a number of corporations worldwide. Expressing himself with love, humility, and simple words for everyone to easily understand, Ishwar Puriji dedicates his life to service for his beloved master and the world. In the previous episode, Ishwar Puriji started teaching us about the role of the inner heavenly sound in the Surat Shabd Yoga, the spiritual method imparted by the great master Baba Sawan Singh Ji. Ishwar Puriji spoke in further details on this topic.
Why is it called sound? Because when we are in physical body, it can be heard, it's audible. So what something that is audible can be heard. That is why in the Bible, John's Gospel begins the verses with the verses, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. Why word? It's audible. In the Rig Veda of the Hindus, they say the Nad, the sound, created the whole universe. And in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikh faith, they say Shabd created everything, including Shabd, the sound again. That just happens that the creative power, which is not a word or a sound, is a creative power. But at the physical level, it appears like sound. When we hear the sound, we open up light and we discover later that light and sound are the same thing. That is why the yoga that great master Baba Sawan Singh taught has been called Surt Shabd Yoga. Surt means attention, Shabd means sound, Yoga means union with your higher self. So that is why the attention being placed on the sound of the self can take you faster to yourself than other means like creating sound by repetition of mantras or creating other sounds which are visible, spoken sounds, written sounds, but the real sound that comes from within, which is light and sound together. At the higher stage, we find that there is no distinction between light and sound. The distinction is only made when we divide the sense perceptions at the astral and physical levels. So that is why the sound is so important, and his method relies heavily on listening to the sound of the self.
A well-remembered saying of Ishwar Puriji is, "Spiritual path is to discover your true identity, which is the ocean and not the drop." We asked Ishwar Puriji to kindly share what this means.
Let me first mention about the problem with the ocean and the drop. That was a big problem for me personally. When I was young, even after initiation by Great Master, the other followers of Great Master described the spiritual path as a travel of a drop to find its ocean and merge in it. And I thought a drop has its own identity. A drop shines in the sun, rainbow colors. And what are we going to do? Struggle hard to go back and merge in an ocean to which one drop makes no difference. And we lose everything. It's a lose-lose path. I was willing to give up this path if this is the truth. That was not the truth. We have never been separated from the ocean. What we call the drop is already in the ocean. It is the ocean. The ocean can contract its awareness to the level of a drop. Many drops. I sometimes hold a glass of water in my hand and show to people, this one glass of water, it has so many drops. They have not left the ocean, they have not left the glass, but they left the awareness that they are a glass, and they become drops. When they expand their awareness, they become the glass. The spiritual path is not a journey from one drop finding an ocean. It is discovery of our own true self where we already are. We are oceans functioning temporarily as drops. When we expand our awareness, we become the ocean. That's the true path. That's what it is. So far as the meditational practices are concerned, they are designed to keep our attention within ourselves, inside, behind the eyes, at the third eye center. And therefore, we use several practices, the most important being repetition of certain words. By repeating those words, we are able to prevent the mind from thinking of other things. There is no real obstacle to good meditation except the distractions created by our mind by thinking of things outside. We have desires and we have attachments which keep us always think of outside. And these are the only real distractions. So that is why when we are able to concentrate our attention on ourselves from where we are functioning in the human body, we are able to find who we are. The repetition of words we call Simran, mantra, helps us because we do it with the mind. Doing with the tongue has no value. But doing with the mind means we don't allow the mind time to think of other things. We engage itself in repetition. The second value of that repetition is that when we repeat with the mind, we are also listening to it. Don't forget, the mind only speaks. The soul listens. Our true self listens, and the mind given to us to speak speaks through thoughts. And that is why we do a double function. We become expert listeners, which we can later use for listening to our own self. Right now we are listening to the words we are repeating. And the second is we do not allow enough space for thoughts to come in when we are repeating a mantra. This is the basic meditation technique, but eventually the thing that helps us the most is listening to the sound and bathing ourselves, the self that we discover, in the light that comes from that sound.
The only one who can show us our true selves is a perfect living master. A most significant attribute of a perfect living master is his or her boundless, unconditional love. Why is that the human soul longs to bathe in this love?
Well, that is the difference between a perfect living master and ourselves, that he, having gone beyond the mind, his love comes from pure spirit, and therefore it's unconditional. It is so unconditional, non-judgmental, that if you meet a perfect living master, you'll experience his love. If you love him, he'll love you. If you don't love him, he loves you. That's called unconditional love. There is no judgment. He does not come to judge. Are we good or bad? Do we deserve something or not? That's not the role of a perfect living master. He comes because we are seekers, because we have sought the ultimate, and He is responding to our seeking, not to the nature of our karma, not to the nature of our good or badness, which are divisions created by the mind. He comes from beyond the mind, and therefore His love is completely unconditional, which is a very beautiful thing, because we meet so many people and we find that their love is based upon how you react or how good or bad you are, the judgment involved. But in a perfect living master, you will never see that. I never saw in Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh, the great master, ever any judgment. And people made mistakes and he forgave them. Forgiveness was always part of him. And that compassion and forgiveness, along with unconditional love, is a definite trait of a perfect living master. We call him perfect living master because, first of all, perfection is only above the mind. In the mind, there's all imperfection. The moment you divide things, it becomes imperfect. And when you look at things in piecemeal, it's always imperfect. When you see total, it's perfect. So that is why the perfect living masters operate from beyond the mind. And therefore, they are perfect. They are living because they are living human beings like us. The living master is a human being. He can say no to us. When the mind is saying yes, he can say no, guide us properly. So he is a master because that is part of his role as a human being. We all have destinies, and his destiny includes the role to help other people. That's it. Therefore, perfect living masters are really perfect, living like ourselves, and masters to guide us to our true home.